There's been a lot of discussion lately about whether or not there's too much Star Wars content coming out, with us being in a time where there are about 3, 4, or even more Star Wars series releasing in one year. You may have seen recently that Liam Neeson, the actor who played Qui-Gon Jinn in The Phantom Menace, The Clone Wars, and Tales of the Jedi, recently made some comments on the matter. According to Liam Neeson, he is not interested in returning to the character of Qui-Gon Jinn, and the reason is because he believes Star Wars is diluting its own magic by its number of Star Wars spin-offs. 10 years ago, Star Wars had 6 episodic films, and its only popular and mainstream spin-off was the Clone Wars animated series. But since Disney has bought Star Wars, they have basically doubled its library, and they have no plans to stop anytime soon. The Hollywood Reporter recently released an article about the current state of the Disney company, following Bob Iger's statement that the studio needs to be better at curating its content, especially projects that are most expensive like Star Wars and Marvel. While it has been pretty much confirmed that Marvel will see a slowdown with the content they release, it seems that Star Wars is going to be going the exact opposite direction, with the Hollywood Reporter predicting that Lucasfilm may announce Star Wars' return to the big screen this April, and more series being put into production. With all of this in mind, plus the fact that we already know of plenty of series coming out in the next 2 years, I started to wonder if Liam Neeson's comments actually had some truth to them. Obviously, I am a Star Wars fan, and I have always dreamed about Star Wars releasing as many projects as it is nowadays. But now that we are here, is it actually sustainable? Will the franchise continue to thrive, or is Liam Neeson correct in saying that it has and will lose its magic? Today, I want to take a deeper look into Liam Neeson's comments and see if there is any truth to these statements. It truly feels like every year we get more and more Star Wars content. When Disney first bought the franchise, they had a pretty decent routine for a few years. They would release one theatrical movie each year, whether it was a spin-off film or an episodic film, and at the same time, you'd have a main animated series going on. This was definitely more content compared to the 35 years before Disney, which only released 6 movies and 1 mainstream series their entire run. But Disney's releases never really felt like it was too much. For me at least, I was perfectly satisfied with 1 movie a year, because each movie would plague my thoughts for that entire year. And if I wasn't thinking of the previous movie, I was thinking of the next movie coming out. And of course the animated series were great, smaller scale stories to hold me over. But in 2019, things would completely change for Lucasfilm when Disney finally released their streaming service, Disney+. At the time, streaming was on the rise to become what we know it as today. Streaming is much more convenient to the average person when it comes to consuming movies and TV shows, rather than buying every single thing that you wanted to watch individually or waiting for things to appear on cable. Companies like Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, and so many more were services that would hold various movies and TV shows from all different studios that would license part of their catalog to be put onto these streaming services. For Disney, they would have a contract with Netflix where every film that they released from 2016 to 2018 would be put on Netflix exclusively to stream. And with the success of a lot of their titles on the service, Disney realized they were sitting on a golden opportunity. You see, movies and TV shows belonging to other studios weren't the only type of content that you'd see on these streaming services. Many of them would produce their own original content, with a lot of those projects being extremely successful. And when an original series or movie was successful, it was great for the streaming service as you can't get that content anywhere else. Disney realized they owned plenty of major IPs that already saw success outside of streaming, so it would be pretty simple to transfer that success over to their own streaming service. Disney's catalog is so big that they wouldn't even need to license out other studios' content. They could just bring in every Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, and Disney movie that they had to the service, as well as their cable TV series that appeared on ABC and Disney Channel. If they took that catalog, but also made exclusive content for their service, they'd be able to recreate the success that Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon saw. So they did just that, and for Star Wars, this opened the door for live-action TV shows within the Star Wars franchise. We've seen animated and live-action movies, but what happens if you mix those two together? It was an idea that the creator of Star Wars, George Lucas, had toyed with for a while, even attempting to start up his own live-action series, but he wouldn't have the technology to create a live-action series that would be on par with the movies in an affordable way. Disney's involvement would solve a lot of the budget issues in creating 8 to 12 hours of content for a TV show, but technology would improve a ton as well. The crew behind The Mandalorian would develop a technology called Stagecraft, which is essentially a digital dome that would project digital sets onto the walls and ceiling. With this technology, they would easily be able to switch between sets and save some time with VFX in post-production, even if it was just a little bit. This would also mean that the series would cost less to make, but would still deliver on the same level as the other live-action Star Wars content. This would be shown through the amount of success and praise The Mandalorian saw after that first season, with nearly 16.73 million people watching the entire first season during the 7-week period it was released. And Disney Plus would see a huge amount of success as well in those first 7 weeks, with 26.5 million people subscribing according to The Hollywood Reporter. It was also at this time that Lucasfilm started to realize that their ideas for a film every year may not work for the future of the franchise, so after 2019's release of both The Rise of Skywalker and The Mandalorian, Lucasfilm put their entire focus into TV shows on Disney Plus. Since The Mandalorian, Lucasfilm has released 3 more live-action series, 2 more seasons of The Mandalorian, and at least 5 projects that we know of on the way. And that isn't to mention The Bad Batch and Visions as well, both with 2 seasons. But was releasing this much Star Wars television a good decision for Lucasfilm?
And are you interested in doing your own spin-off on Disney Plus?
No, I'm not. There's so many spin-offs of Star Wars. It's diluting it to me, and it's taking away the mystery and the magic in a weird way, you know?
The biggest thing about Liam Neeson's comment that stands out to me is how he says that this overabundance of Star Wars spin-offs is leading to the magic and mystery being taken away. Now, this can be taken a bunch of different ways, but I'm assuming that he means we are seeing too much in the Star Wars galaxy that it is taking the mystery away. Characters like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker have pretty much had their entire lives covered throughout different stories. Compare that to when we meet these 2 characters in A New Hope, and pretty much everything we know about them was just told to us in vague ways. Their entire conflict was a mystery, but there was a certain intrigue to that. Personally though, I think that Star Wars expanding on certain elements is one of my favorite aspects of the franchise. I love that in Star Wars you can take a simple line from Obi-Wan Kenobi where he mentions a war called the Clone Wars, and suddenly there is a 7-season animated series covering just that. I think the way the galaxy expands is absolutely fantastic. However, I do still think that there is some validity to his take. For me, the magic of the Star Wars galaxy comes from being able to immerse myself in fantastic stories from my favorite franchise. But if Star Wars focuses too much on releasing content just for the sake of releasing content, that ruins the magic quite a bit when those series start to lack in quality. For example, one of my favorite characters in Star Wars is Obi-Wan Kenobi. His series is something that I have been excited about since before it was even announced, as I always wanted to see Ewan McGregor back in Star Wars. And while there is definitely so much to love about the series, one thing that has always bothered me is that the quality just seemed to be lacking, and I always wondered what it was. Until I looked into when filming began on the series, which was May of 2021. The series would release all 6+ hours of its content not even a year after the series finished filming. For reference, The Force Awakens started filming in April of 2014, a whole year and 8 months before they would release the 2-hour film. Put that into perspective. Obi-Wan Kenobi had an entire year to do filming and post-production on its 6 hours of content, versus the normal year and a half for 3 times less the content. I realized that they completely rushed that series out, so no wonder things like VFX and editing seem so wonky to me. It felt like it was just an incomplete series. The story isn't really where any of my issues are, honestly, and I truly think that any story issues I do have could be fixed by just editing some things differently and having enough time to polish the entire series. I feel pretty similar with the Book of Boba Fett. After the success of The Mandalorian, Lucasfilm greenlit a bunch of spin-off series that would all relate back to The Mandalorian and its characters, created by the same people as The Mandalorian, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. After 2 banger seasons of The Mandalorian, the same exact crew would create one of my least favorite projects in Star Wars. The Book of Boba Fett felt like it was also rushed to be made so that they could just release a project related to The Mandalorian as quickly as possible. This was another series that would film a year before its release, meaning that the entire post-production process was done in even less time. And not only did the production quality feel rushed, but the story did as well. The Mandalorian set up an extremely emotional send-off between the Mandalorian and Grogu, but the two would reunite in a series that was about Boba Fett. This will definitely become a problem for the general audience when Season 3 comes around and they learn that they missed an entire section of the story in a series that appears to be unrelated. I mean, sure, we as diehard fans of Star Wars know what is going on, but The Mandalorian brought in an audience of non-fans as well. How can you expect someone who isn't that huge into Star Wars to know that the one thing they watch in the franchise would be continued in something that has no indication that it would connect on that level? It seemed as though Disney just wanted to fast track the story of The Mandalorian to get in as many seasons as they could with Grogu involved, given that he is such a popular character now. So the amount of Star Wars spin-offs that there were didn't feel like they were because these were good stories, but just to get content out from the Star Wars franchise. The creators of The Mandalorian, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, seem like they are being spread out too thin, yet still expected to release a bunch of content within their Mandalorian timeline. I mean, this year, we will have 3 live-action Star Wars series released: The Mandalorian Season 3, Ahsoka, and Skeleton Crew. All 3 of these series are Mandalorian-related shows, with Jon and Dave being the creators on each one. How do they even have enough time to create all of these series? But my favorite Star Wars spin-off, and the one that I consider damn near perfect, is Andor, and that series would have an entire year and 10 months to film and do post-production on their series. Andor felt like it was actually given the time to polish itself. The story was a nice slow burn that played out greatly over 12 episodes, and not a single shot of this series looked cheap or wonky. Everything was perfect, from the visuals to the storyline, and I truly think that it was because they were allowed to take their time, while the more mainstream Star Wars content was rushed out to keep its relevance. All of this is to say that basically, I don't think it really matters how much Star Wars content is released. For me, as long as the series are of good quality, they could release as much as they want. But personally, I don't think that they could release a bunch of series and at the same time make all of them good. So if there was a world where they'd slow down on Star Wars but release banger after banger, I would definitely take that opportunity. I am hopeful for the future of Star Wars and that they will put more of a focus on quality storytelling. Andor was perfect, and Season 2 is currently filming right now. We also have the new season of The Mandalorian, which surprisingly started filming in October 2021, a whole year and 5 months before the release. And while it's definitely questionable to have Jon and Dave lead so many series, I think as long as they are given the time that they need, they could make something really special with their storytelling. If you want to hear me go more in depth on related topics of Star Wars hype, I released a video essay that is 35 minutes long at the beginning of the year, which dives deeper into how the fandom has received the content in the last 10 years since Disney bought Star Wars. I would love for you to check it out. Until next time, may the Force be with you always, and SWE out.